he will be able to collect. If he finishes in third, he'll pick up the points that go with that, which will be very, very handy indeed for him. 9.5 points.
Watch Marciello this time out of Sterling's. Looks like he's as close as he's been at any point, but being defended by Wilkinson now. The better entry into the corner will be for the Mercedes. Runs wide on the exit. Wilkinson has to go wide because he's that tight line. So this is the closest in reality, other than the one occasion into Surtees. So pressure is building from Marciello on Wilkinson now. Again on the exit. Will he make a move up the inside? It'll be a very late dive if he does. He decides not to because Wilkinson defends. Doesn't leave the opportunity.
Another lap gone in which a move hasn't happened. At Druids, they cross the start-finish line 0.186 of a second behind. You can see Dries Vanthoors now coming into shot in the background, and track limits will be observed at all times, allegedly, but Raffaele Marciello forced to try and take different lines in each instant. Hasn't had a little look up the inside for the last couple of laps at Surtees, but he's almost more interested in getting better exit from the corner and the run up towards Hawthorns. Into the Pilgrim's Drop they go, up Hawthorn Hill. Another lap in which that lead has been protected. Ollie Wilkinson growing in stature with every single lap.
The team principal and team members all glued to the screen, just wishing their driver and just keep doing what you're doing, because they know as close as Marciello can get, there isn't enough left in the tank in the Mercedes. It will only come either through back markers and traffic or an error on the part of the McLaren driver. Again, how close is Marciello coming off Sterling's? Again, the run down into clearways. Good defence from Wilkinson. Again, slightly compromises his corner. And now watch Marciello try to swoop back under the McLaren. But again, just enough in the tank for the McLaren to maintain that advantage all the way up into Paddock Hill. Now again, Marciello close onto the back. Thinks about, will he make a move up the inside? Will he make a move up the outside? Didn't help himself by running wide on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend.
And the cavalry is coming to the assistance of Jota Sport, because look, the third place car, Dries Vanthoors, is getting closer and closer. He's down to 1.5 seconds off the tail of the 88 Mercedes. Marciello, another chance, running very, very wide at Graham Hill Bend. Every little slip up lets the championship leader get on the tail, and that could buy a tiny bit of respite for the race leader, Ollie Wilkinson. And again, different lines through Surtees, John.
There's no way you can go around the outside at Surtees, but you can sort of get yourself lined up to get a good run off the corner, and that's what Marciello was trying to do. But again, straight line speed of the McLaren just about enough to keep the Mercedes at bay. And again, a different line through the corner, having now to think hard and what am I going to do? I'm trying to run my natural pace, and I'm still being run down by Marciello. And I still think the McLaren is a slightly more tricky car, particularly off Graham Hill corner. That's the one that seems to be its. Now they've caught up to these two Aston Martins and the Ferrari. Marciello's, this is what he was waiting for.
Well, absolutely so. We thought, how quickly would they pass the Aston Martins? They'd only been able to do so. They were backed up by Giorgio Roda, and this has suddenly provided a possibility for Raffaele Marciello. He looks, he's outside, he's in front of McLaren, but he's edged himself wide, and Dries Vanthoors is about to pounce on him, trying to take the second place. He's got the better run out of Clark Curve, so a nightmare. Unfortunately, a move was attempted but not pulled off, but Marciello isn't going to back out. He holds on to second place. This is fantastic, John.
Yeah, I mean, he went a long way around the outside, but of course that's the dirtier part of the corner, and you could see how much of the momentum he lost in doing so. And Vanthoors actually just about got alongside, but eventually the Mercedes was able to consolidate into Paddock Hill Bend, and they've still got the problem with these other cars, the Aston Martin and the Ferrari. So, what, 5 minutes remaining, and heart in mouth time for all three lead cars, let alone those that are lapped down. So the battle going on, the Aston and the Ferrari, they're oblivious to what's going on behind.
Yeah, but what's actually happened right there, I'm sure Johnny Adam is professional enough to keep out of the way. There was a slight loss of momentum out of Surtees by the McLaren in the lead of this race. Ollie Wilkinson still there. He had a tiny bit of respite, but look, they're side by side, and the race leader needs to get through. He's being compromised, nearly hits the tail of Giorgio Roda's Ferrari, and Marciello is alongside, and Dries Vanthoors ready to pounce.
He's gone past. No, he hasn't.
No, McLaren still just about hanging on. Breathe, and there's contact, and the McLaren is taken off, unfortunately clashing into Dingledale. Oh, that is disaster for Jota, and that means probably a red flag, one would presume, and that means somehow Marciello stays on the track, and Dries Vanthoors is now up into second.
Full course yellow in 20 seconds. Full course yellow in 20 seconds.
Yeah, that was 3 into 2, does not go, and just the contact was inevitable.
Full course yellow in 10 seconds.
And of course, part of the problem was that Giorgio Roda
5
and others.
4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow now.
could have done better, and that's where you rely on the back markers, and that was not handled well by those back markers, in my opinion.
It was unfortunate. The rest really got close. We love close racing. He got too close. 3 does not work side by side into Dingledale, and for Jota, you really have to feel for them there. In fact, the first 3 were compromised enormously down there, and unjust returns for Roy Wilkinson, who drove a supreme race under enormous pressure. He's out of the car, but there's lots of damage to the barriers down there.
And the car, of course, has gone over the barriers into the effectively what is a copse.
So good to see him out of the car, but real frustration for all parties concerned there, but most notably for Jota, because Ollie Wilkinson drove really well under the most extreme pressure, and Raffaele Marciello kept on looking for places to go past, and then side-by-side contact, and with the nose of the McLaren just in front, it pivoted around the nose of the Mercedes, and the teams will all be talking to their drivers under this full course yellow period.
And the stewards will be looking at that incident, because that's a major incident here at Brands Hatch. The car actually getting over the barriers and into... there is Oliver Wilkinson. He appears to be fine, but he'll go to the medical centre for that mandatory check, and the race will finish under a full course yellow. There's only 3.5 minutes remaining, so nothing is going to happen. In fact, I wonder, will it even be red flagged, or will we continue just looking down to see if there are any indications?
Well, there's an ambulance working its way around through Surtees out to the back part of the circuit where Oliver Wilkinson has had that accident. First 3 cars side by side, the rescue vehicles already in position, moving to the scene.
There's the scene of the incident. If you look at the barriers, I mean, there is major damage to the barrier alone, and of course the car is further. You can see the car in that copse. So that was a massive. I mean, that's going to be a considerable length of time for the circuit to be repaired. I don't know what damage is done to the McLaren. I suspect it's unlikely we'll see the car out for race 2 this afternoon. But that was a major impact, not just only to the lead car, but to the barriers around the Brands Hatch circuit. And it'll be an interesting meeting going on with the race director and the stewards, and analysing and if there is any blame to be allayed, where it should be.
Well, what we saw, of course, was the compression of the field, the bunch of cars in front of them running on the run between Hawthorns and Westfield. By the time they went out of Westfield, they started past the back markers, and that's when we had the cars 3 abreast, and that is where the contact occurred. And unfortunately for the McLaren, it speared to the left and at an angle you don't normally get cars going off at Dingledale. It was as they went into the bottom of Dingledale, into the compression, that's where the contact was made. So the cars pulling slowly down the start-finish straight during this full course yellow, under 2 minutes remaining in the race, but unfortunately for Jota, their car very much out of the race, and real frustration. And for the WRT crew and ACA ASP, still looking at the screens, still waiting, but as it is, their car, the 88 Mercedes, Raffaele Marciello, second in the championship, is being followed around at a bated pace, the full course yellow pace, by Dries Vanthoors, the championship leader. So for Dries Vanthoors, John and Charles Weerts, they wanted to collect points. They will collect a very good haul of points if they hold on to this second place, and that's where they end up, and they don't get promoted to victory. No point getting ahead. They just needed to bank the points, and for the 88 crew, they needed to get as many as they could without the 32 scoring.
Well, we have to wait and see the outcome of this race, because there could be a change. Even though the Mercedes right now will take the checkered flag, there may be an investigation and to see whether there is any liability on the part of Raffaele Marciello for what ended up as being a very severe accident to the lead, the 38 Jota McLaren. It may be determined that, I don't know, wait and see.
Well, we will have to wait and see, and what a shame. It really was bubbling nicely and coming to a dramatic conclusion, but we didn't want it to be this dramatic. But the best news in all of this is that Ollie Wilkinson is walking clearly fine out of the car, and I did sort of sense he might have been gesticulating at the others in that lead group when they came past behind under full course yellow at abated speed. But look, we're into the final 30 seconds of this race, and we are clearly going to end under full course yellow conditions, which will mean potential victory for the 88 Mercedes, Raffaele Marciello 32 in second place for Dries Vanthoors, and Mauro Engel in third place. That is the podium as it stands. The leading car, we're released for we've gone green for the final lap. No, we haven't. They were just accelerating over the start-finish line. I just heard an increase in noise. But so the leading car in Pro-Am, just to do the housework, is Enrique Chavez, the 77 Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini. And they have a suitable lead of 8 and a bit seconds over Andrea Bertolini. So at least that looks like a clear result.
So high drama in the closing minutes at Brands Hatch. And Dries Vanthoors, who's sitting back, managed to avoid all that was taking place, witnessed it all, and certainly if anybody needs to get a first-hand report from a good witness, he's your man.
Well, over the laps, as Ollie Wilkinson was resisting the charge from Marciello, I could just see in the background Dries Vanthoor coming closer and closer. And for Vanthoor, difference between third and fourth in points isn't enough to make a difference. But they did gain that with that clever pit stop, just getting out ahead of the Top Sport WRT Mercedes, and then just able to get the pressure on Marciello. He wanted to exert the pressure, waved yellow flag on the start-finish line. We've reached the end of an hour, and the checkered flag comes out. So the order as they cross the line is 88 from 32. That's Raffaele Marciello from Dries Vanthoor. Third place to Mauro Engel in the number 6 Top Sport Mercedes. Fourth place will go to Alex Fontana, the 14 Lamborghini. That's the leading car in the Silver Cup class. So I'm sure this incident, the collision that changed the lead of the race, will be much, much discussed. But let's take a look at the replay of the incident. You've got Giorgio Roda just in front of the first 3 cars. The Mercedes is on the outside, the McLaren's on the inside, and Dries Vanthoor in the Audi is gaining behind them. John, take it away.
Well, we don't actually see what happened. That's shocking to see a car hit a barrier and then deflect. Here we go. Now here you can see the Ferrari it was squeezed on the left-hand side. McLaren defending, Mercedes trying to find a way through. Now on board with Roda, he's got cars on the other side. There's the McLaren going around. Now we didn't see the car, the Ferrari. He looked for the situation. He almost himself had his own major accident.
Well, horrible to be turning around, but now looking from behind, this is jinking around the outside of the Ferrari, comes across past the Ferrari, clips the McLaren. They were so close together, very little room to negotiate. Now the last of the shots, this is looking from Dries Vanthoor's point of view. This might be the one that tells the story.
Well, it's very difficult because both cars are involved, so one might say both cars were... The trouble was that McLaren was on the the right-hand side of the racetrack, beginning to try and move into the middle, and the Mercedes was on the left-hand side of the racetrack trying to get around the Ferrari. And ultimately, it might be declared a racing incident, albeit a very severe one.